Mabel the Lovelorn Dwarf, Chapter 6. The rumble of the crowd shook the ground and reverberated up my body. We were still in the tunnel of the Gilliam Arena. I cowered at the thought of the noise when we would step onto the competition floor. I couldn't hear any of the game's officials' last-minute instructions. Rock sludge-like acid from my stomach soon joined the mine dust-like dryness of my mouth. "You'll be fine, Mabel," Mikey screeched into my ear. He put his massive warm hands on my shoulders and pushed me forward. The younger contestants, the ones like me competing in our first Gilliam Games, were also pushed by their coaches. The experienced competitors were relaxed, joking, going through the motions of throw and follow through. Ignore them. His breath was hot on my ear. The end of the tunnel loomed. Tune everyone out. Focus on your own game and no one can beat you. I nodded ever so slightly to let him know I heard him. If I moved any more, I'd lose everything I'd eaten this week. Mikey and I were among the last of the competitors to step into the arena. The noise in the tunnel was nothing but muffled growls compared to being in the cavern. 2 to 3 dwarves crowded into each seat, and Dwarfling sat on the closest available knee. Mikey said something to me, but I couldn't hear. I only felt his moist breath. I shook my head and pointed at my ears to signal to him. He smiled and dug his thumbs into my shoulder muscles in a comforting massage. The game's official paraded us around the arena. The confident competitors waved to the crowd, smiling and laughing. I took their lead, hoping it would help my nerves. I smiled and raised my arms, which felt more like an anvil had been tied to them than a well-muscled part of my body that could throw anything. Twisting my wrist, I waved as best I could. My friends waved. Da and my brothers crowded in behind them. Their seats were close to ringside and right behind the competitors' benches, the same place they sat in for the exhibition competition. I'm sure I imagined it, but I thought I could hear my family and friends chant my name amid everything. I relaxed. Smiling became more natural. My arm didn't feel quite so heavy. We found our place among the benches. Mikey handed me my bag of axes. The official waved his hand and the crowd quieted down. He then called the first competitor. As the 25th of 30 contestants, I had plenty of time to prepare. I held my axes, weighing each of the finely sanded and lacquered handles in my hands, deciding which order I would throw them. I closed my eyes and centered my breathing. Lots of dwarves in the stands were eating skewered pork, and the aroma of the stout ale made it all feel like being back in the Bearded Prospector, throwing for fun with my friends. Except it was a lot louder in here, and really hot. Sweat pebbled on my brow. I swiped at it with my hand, which only made my palms slick. I dried my hand on my tunic. Though I didn't watch the competition, I knew exactly how everyone had done from the reaction of the crowd. My stomach clenched and my arms stiffened. I desperately wanted a few ales in me to calm me down. The official called my name. Take a deep breath, shake out your arms, forget the scoreboard, and ignore the noise. Focus, relax, and do what you do. Mikey patted my back and nudged me into the throwing range. I weighed the first axe in my hand. The crowd quieted. Even the vendors selling sweets and roast meats were quiet. I found the silence almost more distracting than the noise. All eyes were on me. This was nothing like throwing at the prospector. I focused on the target. At 15 feet, I knew I could make this distance easily. I stepped up to the throwing line. The target didn't look so different from the practice post at home. I rested my axe on my shoulder. I did this 100 times a day. Feet spread, one in front of the other for leverage, I pulled the axe back and heaved it forward, my whole body moving with it, the perfect release and follow through. It arced end over end, the diamonds and sapphires in the handle sparkling. It soared toward the target. I thought the intake of breath from the crowd as they gasped might suck the axe off course. Thunk. The head stuck in the second outermost circle of the target. I stared at it. That would not do. I had lost all the focus I'd gained from my practice throws. I'd let the noise and the venue get to me and change the way I prepared. I needed to do more than visualize perfection. The more experienced competitors may have merely visualized their throws, but I could do better. I had Aramis, and he depended on me to win his freedom. No, not his freedom. Today we were in a fierce battle, and I had to slay his enemy. The evil Lord of Darkness cast his shadow on the allied army of dwarfs and elves. His masses of minions surrounded us. Aramis battled a dozen of them on his own, freeing me to slay our greatest enemy. The head of my axe, forged in the elven fires, could pierce the toughest armor and the most powerful fields of magic. The evil Lord of Darkness raised his sword above his head, exposing his heart to my axe. I had to be careful and accurate. Only one chance now. If I missed, we would all die. I pulled my arm back, narrowed my eyes to see only the evil Lord's heart. I put all of my body's momentum into the throw, releasing the axe at the right moment. Thunk! My axe pierced his armor, an inch off target. The evil Lord of Darkness roared, mortally wounded. The next throw would finish him off. Quick, before he recovered. I raised my axe, focused on the evil Lord's heart. The axe disappeared from my vision as it arced up and over until it descended, the head piercing the armor and slicing the outer vestiges of his heart. I had slain the evil Lord of Darkness. I sat next to Mikey. How am I doing? I asked, afraid to look at the scoreboard. I hope my last two throws could make up the points. I I lost with my disastrous first throw. You're 15th. With 5 more competitors to go, it should be enough to get to the second round, but I had a lot of ground to make up if I had any hope of making the top 10 and moving on to the regional competition. I didn't know if I'd be able to move up enough. I should have focused earlier. I shouldn't have let my nerves get to me. I'm sorry, Mikey, I've let you down. You're hardly out of the competition. You did a great job of shaking off the nerves for your second and third throws. I have no doubt you'll make it to the next round. At the very least, that clown Spencer and a couple of others who have the same coach have yet to throw. I'd be surprised if they came anywhere near the perfection of your last 2 throws. With 6 throws at 20 feet in round 2, you've got plenty of time to get into the top 10. I finished the first round 16th overall. Hardly a satisfactory result. Perhaps I should have been happy with my score, considering I competed against warriors and dwarves much older and experienced than me. But I could place higher. I had to. With the scores of this first round now negated, competing with a clean scorecard, I would place higher. Aramis and I were at war against the armies of the evil Lord of Darkness. I stepped up to the throwing line. We had slain our enemy, but the shadow of evil remained in the form of his minions, still fighting a losing cause. With the evil Lord gone, I had every confidence I could slaughter them all. 6 minions attacked. With absolute clarity, I aimed for their hearts. My axes pierced their armor. 3 dropped on the spot as my axes sliced through their hearts. The remaining 3 would die in the night from their wounds. That was more like it. On my way back to my seat, I looked up at the scoreboard. I sat 8th with 4 more competitors left. I'd moved up, but I wasn't satisfied. Second round points accumulated with the third round points. The possibility of winning hinged perilously on a spectacular performance by me and an even more spectacular fail by 1 or 2 of the top place competitors. I couldn't win, but I could maybe make the top 5. You're doing fine, but you're still off by a couple of inches. You're rushing the throw, releasing too soon. In the next round, take your time. Your focus on the target is excellent. Remember the technique of the throw, when to release, and the follow-through. I remained in 8th place, heading into the third round. I faced 9 moving and pop-up targets, and Aramis and I were swarmed by the last of the evil Lord's minions. Though their numbers had greatly diminished, the battle had worn us both down. I slaughtered the first 5 minions with blades straight to their black little hearts. My arm burned, but they kept coming. I had to slow down, take my time to focus my energy, and not get sloppy on my follow-through to make sure the axe flew with full force. I felled 3 more minions. 1 last minion raced at Aramis. I had to stop it. Pain stabbed through my shoulder. 1 more. I pulled back and put my full body's energy into it. The axe soared in an elegant arc, blade over handle over blade. I grazed the edge of the minion's heart, enough to destroy him. At last the war was over. Aramis and I and our allied armies were victorious, exhausted, sweaty, and sore. I'd done it. I'd placed 5th, far from being champion, but high enough to get to the regional games. My family led my cheering section, my friends a close second in volume. I smiled, but I couldn't lift my arm enough to wave. Well done, Mabel, Mikey said. You've earned yourself a day off from training. My friends met me at the arena exit. You were brilliant, Jimmy said, putting a casual arm around my shoulder. Let's go to the Prospector to celebrate. All drinks are on us, Philip said. I loved being with my friends. It had been so long since I'd gone to the Prospector and had some fun with them, but I was exhausted and yawned several times on the way out of the mountain. When we reached the turnoff to the Prospector, I stopped. I'm sorry, but I really want to go home. What you need is some proper ale in you to celebrate, Jimmy said. And some time with your friends, Emma added. Besides, there might be some potential mates waiting for you there. She was right. Now was the time to meet my admirers, given how well I'd placed. But I really, truly just wanted to go home. I'm sorry, maybe tomorrow. I didn't feel like celebrating. I'd qualified for regionals, but I wasn't happy with my overall result. It wasn't a bad result. I just couldn't get over my disastrous first throw. Besides, it had been a long day. This level of competing took a lot out of me. Maybe I needed to put my exhaustion aside for my family and myself to take advantage of what celebrity I may have. But quite frankly, at the moment, I didn't care about socializing and finding a mate. If you're enjoying the adventures of Mabel Goldenaxe, don't forget to subscribe below.